From biting opponents to faking injuries, these football stars stoop to shocking new lows to gain an advantage. Get ready to be amazed by the outrageous true stories of the 10 biggest cheaters in football history. These guys give new meaning to the phrase, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. In 2011, Brazilian defender Dani Alves took the El Cacique drama to new heights that would make even Hollywood's finest proud. So Alves is going toe-to-toe with Real Madrid's Pepe, a man known for his own theatrical antics. Suddenly, Pepe gives Alves the slightest of shoves, and you'd think Alves has been shot out of a cannon. He flies backwards, arms flailing, legs akimbo, and hits the deck with a thud that could be heard all the way back in Brazil. The ref, clearly impressed by Alves' acting chops, brandishes a red card for Pepe. Never mind that the replay showed barely any contact. Danny Boy really took flopping like a fish to a whole new level. Where's his Best Actor trophy? He certainly earned it that day. If you thought Alves' antics were wild, wait until you see the miraculous recovery of a Brazilian legend. The year is 2002. The stage, the World Cup. Brazil, the tournament favorites, are in a heated battle with Turkey. With the score tied and time running out, the Brazilians are desperate for a goal. Suddenly, their star midfielder Rivaldo collapses to the ground, writhing in apparent agony after a Turkish player lightly kicked the ball towards him. The way Rivaldo was rolling around, you'd think he'd be hit by a sniper from the stands. The medical team rushes out, fearing the worst. Could this be the end of this tournament? His career? But wait, what's this? The ball suddenly bounces into the back of the net, and it's a miracle. Rivaldo springs back to life, leaping to his feet and celebrating with his teammates as if nothing had happened. The Turkish players are left stunned, wondering what kind of sorcery they just witnessed. Give this man an Academy Award to go with his World Cup trophy. He certainly fooled us all that day. Speaking of miraculous recoveries, what happens when the world's greatest player channels his inner Maradona? The answer may surprise you. If you're enjoying this crazy trip down memory lane, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more wild football stories. Flashback to 2007, when a young, mop-haired Messi was just beginning to take the football world by storm. Barcelona were facing off against their city rivals Espanyol in a crucial derby match. What happened next would go down in infamy. Messi, challenging his inner Diego Maradona, blatantly punched the ball into the back of the net with his fist, leaving the Espanyol players and fans stunned. The referee somehow missed this most obvious of handballs, awarded the goal, and Barcelona went on to win the match. For once, it looked like Messi really was following in his idol's infamous footsteps. Let's just say that if VAR had been around back then, things might have turned out a little differently. But if you think Messi's antics were bad, wait until you hear about the French legend who left an entire nation feeling betrayed. France were facing off against Ireland in a crucial World Cup qualifier in 2009. The winner would book their ticket to South Africa for the 2010 tournament. The score tied on aggregate and extra time winding down. A free kick was floated into the box, and Henry, using all of his cunning and guile, not once, but twice deliberately handled the ball to keep it in play before squaring it across the face of goal for his teammate William Gallas to score. The Irish players and fans were incensed, but the referees, having missed the blatant double handball, allowed the goal to stand. France would go into the World Cup, and Ireland were left to rue what might have been. At least Henry's antics didn't involve blood. The next one is straight crazy. Roberto Rojas, Chile versus Brazil, 1989, World Cup qualifier on the line. The tension in the stadium was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Or, apparently a razor blade. With Chile trailing 1-0 in time running out, a flare thrown from the stands landed near Rojas in the Chilean goal. Suddenly, he dropped to the ground, clutching his face and bleeding profusely. The match was immediately stopped as medics rushed to his aid. If it could be proven that Brazilian fans had thrown the flare, Chile would be awarded a 2-0 victory and a spot in the 1990 World Cup. But hold on, something doesn't add up here. After officials stopped the match and began investigating, they discovered that the flare had never actually hit Rojas at all. So where did all that blood come from? It turns out that Rojas, in a desperate attempt to get his team to the World Cup, had slit his own face with a razor blade he had hidden in his glove. FIFA promptly slapped him with a lifetime ban from football. You could say Rojas was a cut above the rest when it came to cheating. Or maybe he was just criminally insane. But at least Rojas used his own hand and not the hand of God like someone else. It's the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal, Argentina versus England. The weight of two nations on the shoulders of 22 men. Early in the second half, with the score deadlocked at 0-0, Argentine legend Diego Maradona rises to meet a mishit clearance in the England penalty area. But instead of hitting the ball, he slyly punches it over the onrushing goalkeeper and into the net. The English players were outraged, surrounding the referee and crying foul. But the goal stands. Maradona later claimed it was scored a little with the hand of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. The hand of God indeed. More like the sleight of hand of a true footballing wizard. Maradona went on to score one of the greatest goals ever in the same match, weaving through the entire English defense before slotting home. But it's the hand of God that everyone remembers. Stay right here, because we've got more shockingly shameless antics straight ahead. Sergio Ramos. Where do we even begin with Ramos? How about the 2018 Champions League final, where he infamously judo threw Liverpool's Mo Salah to the ground, injuring the Egyptian's shoulder and effectively ending his match? Or the time he intentionally got a yellow card in a Champions League match against Ajax, just so he could serve his suspension in the second leg and be available for the next round? That move backfired spectacularly, as Real Madrid crashed out and Ramos watched helplessly from the stands. But perhaps the most Ramos moment of all came in the 2016 Champions League final against Atletico Madrid. With the score tied late in regulation, Ramos threw himself to the ground in the Atletico penalty area, clutching his face as if he'd been shot. Replays showed there was barely any contact. The ref wasn't buying it, but that didn't stop Ramos from trying again just moments later. You almost have to admire his commitment to the craft. Ramos might be a defensive monster, a trophy machine, and a surefire future Hall of Famer, but he's also a master of the dark arts, a man who will stop at nothing to gain an advantage. But does he beat the next on our list? Not sure. Buckle up, because this one's wild. Spain versus Malta. Euro 1984 qualifier. Spain needs to win by an absurd 11-goal margin to advance to the finals. No one gives Malta a chance. They're the ultimate football minnows, a tiny island nation with a population smaller than most Spanish cities. But then, something truly bizarre happens. At halftime, with Spain leading 3-1, the Maltese players suddenly felt violently ill. We're talking stomach cramps, vomiting, the whole 9 yards. Rumors start flying. Have the Maltese been poisoned? Are the Spaniards so desperate to qualify that they're resorting to sabotage? The second half kicks off and it's like watching a training drill. The Spaniards are scoring at will against the depleted Maltese. The final score? An absolute bonkers 12-1. After the match, the Maltese blamed poisoned oranges they were given at halftime for their sudden sickness. The Spanish deny any wrongdoing, of course, but to this day many suspect that cash, not citrus, was the real culprit. Some say the Maltese were paid to take a dive, allowing the Spanish to get the 11-goal win they needed. We'll probably never know for sure what really went down that day, but one thing's certain. Always be wary of accepting fruity gifts from opponents, especially if they need to beat you by a cricket score. If stories like these are right up your alley, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We've got plenty more where they came from. If you thought poisoned oranges were the height of football scandal, just wait until you hear about the match that made a mockery of the beautiful game itself. It's the 1982 World Cup in Spain. The final match in Group B pits West Germany against Austria. Due to the quirks of the tournament's format, a narrow German victory by 1 or 2 goals would see both teams advance to the next round at the expense of upstarts Algeria, who had shockingly beaten the Germans earlier in the tournament. The match kicks off and sure enough, the Germans score an early goal, and then nothing. For the next 80 minutes, the two teams barely pretend to compete. They lazily knock the ball around, making no real effort to score or even look like they're trying. The crowd quickly catches on to the farce unfolding before them. Fans start waving money at the players, chanting, "Shame, shame!" The match ends 1-0, and surprise, surprise, both West Germany and Austria advance. To call it a gentleman's agreement would be an insult to gentlemen everywhere. From the shame of Gaijon to the most inferior biter in football history, we've saved the most jaw-dropping scandal for last. Luis Suarez, El Pistillero, the Uruguayan striker with a nose for goal and apparently a taste for human flesh. That's right, folks. In a sport full of divers, floppers, and all-around cheats, Suarez takes the cake. Or should we say, takes a bite, for his truly bizarre habit of sinking his teeth into opposing players. It all started in 2010 when Suarez was playing for Dutch club Ajax. During a match against PSV Eindhoven, he got the tussle with midfielder Otman Bakal and ended up biting the Dutchman on the shoulder. But incredibly, that wasn't the end of his biting antics. In 2013, now playing for Liverpool, Suarez got peckish again. This time, the victim was Chelsea's Bronislav Ivanovic. Suarez chomped down on Ivanovic's arm during a match, earning him a 10-game suspension. You'd think that would have been enough to curb his appetite for destruction, but no. In the 2014 World Cup, in a match against Italy, Suarez took a bite out of Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini's shoulder. It was his third bite, his third ban, and it cemented his reputation as the most infamous cannibal in world football. In a sport where players will do just about anything to gain an advantage, Suarez took things to a whole new level of insanity. Was he just trying to psych out his opponents? Assert dominance in the most primal way possible? Or does he just have an uncontrollable craving for sweaty, grass-stained flesh? We may never know for sure. If you enjoyed this wild ride through football's Hall of Shame, smash that like button and subscribe for more crazy sports stories and lists. Let me know in the comments which of these despicable cheaters made your blood boil the most.